And then we have the facial markings to discuss. That's always a lot of fun. That finally gets into something decent. The factors for causing that: we inherited it. Things change with our age. Environment can certainly have a big effect on things, whether or not we like to hang out in the basement and play video games, or we like to spend a lot of time on the beach. Muscle movement, smoking, drinking Slurpees, things like that. And our body position has a big effect on facial markings. Most of the time when we look at people, we're looking at people that are either sitting or standing, they're vertical. So gravity's pulling everything down towards our toes. And then as soon as we die, what happens? We go on our back, and gravity is no longer bringing all that stuff to our toes, but it's pulling things back to our ears. And one of the challenges we have as embalmers is to try to remember to correct for that, and we're going to try to massage things forward so that we get the nasolabial fold back and all those parts of the expression so that people look somewhat normal. Biggest problem is that the mouth can really start to look very wide and out of shape, and we have to try to get that into a more pleasing position. And of course, the condition of the body can also make changes. Whether or not a person is either extremely emaciated or if they're corpulent. Rapid weight loss will certainly make some differences. All things to just keep in mind. Other markings we discussed, we have 3 types of markings. The furrow, which is a wrinkle, linear crevice on the skin accompanied by bordering elevations. The fold, which is an elongated prominence of flesh which accompanies the furrow, and then of course the groove, where it's more shallow than a furrow, there is no fold, just like a little line somewhere. And we broke all of our facial markings into 2 different types, natural and acquired. Natural being the ones we were born with, and then acquired being the ones that develop over time. And not sure if you, during all your studies, if you made the charts, but I gave you all the charts here so that you should flip through these before you go in. But you have the 9 markings from markings to the muscles that are related. No muscle is just as important. And then we have the 11 acquired markings, the ones that we get over time. And then I also created a 3rd chart, which is the muscle to marking chart. This gives you just the names of the muscles and then the wrinkle, regardless if it's natural or acquired. So it gives you another way of studying these things over. Just looking at the muscles, things are pretty self-explanatory, I believe. If you have any questions, you can ask, or you can always look in your notes. Remember, if we're talking about dimples, figure out where the dimples are. If we're talking chin, it has to be masseter. If we're talking cheeks, mentalis is the chin. Masseter, or then buccal, that's the dimples of the cheeks. So make sure you don't get those confused. Remember, when we talk about labial sulci, the smoker's mouth, it's markings that cross both the integumentary lip and the mucous membrane. So we're not just talking about tracings on the mucous membrane itself. Okay, then the next thing we discussed was the canon of beauty and what norm is. So we pulled norm on page 1, and now we're still talking about norm. And the basic norm is the head is oval in outline, the upper portion a little wider than the lower. The greatest width of the oval is 2/3 the length, and the height of the adult can be measured in head lengths. So the average height is about 7.5, and in a tall person it's 8. The boundaries of the face are right here. The superior border of the face is the lowest part of the normal hairline. The inferior border is the base of the chin, and then the side borders, the lateral borders, are the hairline directly in front of the ear. Then we had those equal third lengths. From the lowest point of the hairline to the superior part of the eyebrow is 1/3. From the superior part of the eyebrow to the base of the nose is our next third. And that to the base of the chin is our 3rd third. We also had some other third lengths that were the same as the length to the ear is a third. And from the lateral corner of the eyelid to the ear passage, the external auditory meatus is a third. And then when we took the lower third, we divided that up into thirds. From the base of the nose to the line of closure of the lip, to the top of the chin, and then to the bottom of the chin. Those are all thirds as well. So they become ninths. Some of the other things we discussed was on closed eyes, the line of closure is actually halfway between the vertex of the cranium and the base of the chin. So if you were to draw a picture, straight across, that's where the eyes are. And the length of the head is divided into equal halves when you draw the lines across the canthi. And then we took the face and looked dead on, and we talked about eye widths, using closed eyes, which are different than open eyes, but for the most part, we're always having closed eyes anyway. The face is 5 eyes wide at the zygomatic arches. The distance between the eyes is an eye wide. And then just think it through. The lateral border of one eye to the other would be 3 eyes wide. If you go to the medial border of one eye to the other, then we're doing a 2 eyes distance. The base of the nose is only 1 eye wide, and the mouth is 2 eyes wide. If you take a little imaginary line from the center of the eye, that should bring you to the corner of the mouth. As you set features and work on people, that's sort of the norm that we go by. But look at the photographs, because you are going to definitely see the deviations. Every once in a while, you'll see a mouth that appears smaller, and we have to try to endeavor to keep that smaller, because when it gets wider, families really notice and say something. And there are those people that seem to have those Miss America smiles that we have to try to keep. So whenever possible, male, female, always try to get some photographs. But if you don't have, you go with the Candid Beauty, do the best you have, make adjustments once you do get a photograph. We have some additional 2/3 measurements of the face. Take the 1/3 and add them up. So the normal hairline to the base of the nose, or the top of the eyebrows to the base of the chin. And they also gave us a new measurement for a third, and that's the tip of the thumb to the tip of the index finger. If you were to measure that, that actually tells you what the third measurement should be. That's new information. I just reported it.
Wait, which one?
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2 down there. That's actually a 1/3 measurement for you.
Okay.
So I should probably try to make that a little clearer. Then we talked about something called supplemental equalities. Those were 2/3 measurements that don't apply to the obese or the emaciated, and that's external auditory meatus to external auditory meatus. On a normal person, or the tip of the nose to the ear passage is another 2/3 measurement. Yeah, the rest of this stuff is all just repeating. I'm repeating what I've already told you. References to photographs are very much in the notes. Remember, you want recent photographs, sharp and focused, not flatly lit. They're always going to give you a couple World War II photos of Grandpa, but try to get some recent ones too. Even if it's a nursing home photo with him sitting next to someone with a funny hat on, tell the family we're not going to publish this, we just need it for reference. And make sure you got a couple of magnifying glasses in the prep room, because they always give you these little small photos that you have to try to, take a really close look at. The 3/4 view is important because you can see part of the profile, projection of the cheekbone.
Would you say that's the best view? If they get, if you had to choose one view for a profile, would that be the best one, in your opinion, to choose?
Probably.
Maybe 4th?
Hopefully they're going to give you a bunch, but for the most part, you're going to get like a box full of frontal views.
Right.
Or David Caruso 3/4, maybe a David Caruso 3/4 view or something, but for the most part, you're going to get a lot of frontal views.
Right.
And the profile is good because you get the projection and recessions. The frontal view is important for length and width. If you remember that one photograph I had in the presentation where you had the frontal view, and you made a guess of what the nose was going to look like, and then you saw the side view and the nose was more like a hook nose. You really need to try to get more than one. The other thing I recommend is, if you're the arranger and the embalmer, is to just size up the family. A lot of sons look like their fathers, or daughters look like their mothers, and if you get lucky in that respect, that'll help you out a long ways too. Part of the curriculum did cover calculating the actual size of features based on photographs. You might run into something, and that's why I spent the time to put it in here and covered it in the course. For the most part, I look at the photos and I look for where things start and end, and I make my markings off the photos. But you, in theory, could pull out your rulers and figure this out. So I got the example here. You can go through that at your leisure. If you want to later, we can go to the blackboard and do one or two. But I think it's not that hard. I think, like I said in the lecture, this is basically 5th grade math. The only problem is some people haven't touched it since the 5th grade, so it's a little old. But it's certainly not complicated. Then we had the facial profiles, where instead of looking for our third measurements or other things, we started talking about how the forehead and the chin were in relationship to the upper lip. And the big thing that I had problems memorizing was, concavities versus convexities. That just drove me nuts. If you can remember that if something protrudes further than the upper lip, it's a concavity, you have it done. And I gave you all the combinations here. Vertical is everything is in straight line. Convex is the most common, where the forehead and the chin recede in relationship to the upper lip. In the world of never saying never and never saying always, they're always supposed to talk about the forehead first. So that should never be a trick. The forehead's always first. Remember, you can also have vertical and convex or concave mixed up. So the example F, the forehead is in line with the upper lip and the chin recedes, that would be vertical convex. Concave is least common, and that shouldn't be too big a deal. Then we went back to frontal views, and instead of looking for iris, we looked at some different keys. The forehead, the cheeks, the chin, the angle of the jaw. Most common being oval, egg-shaped. Round being infantine type. Square, that's broad, little curvature. Oblong, that's elongated. I think that reminds me of Stan Laurel and Hardy. Sort of stretched out. The forehead and the angle of jaw are pretty much squared. Triangular is least common. And when you see, this is one that you can really get confused with. It's easy to get triangular and inverted triangle confused. Triangular is wide at the jaw. Think of pyramids. So wide at the jaw, narrow at the top. That's our triangular. If we have wide at the forehead, that has to be inverted triangle. And then the last one of those frontal views, the diamond, wide across the cheekbones, and then narrow top and bottom. And then the only other views we had were bilateral views. That's about the prominence of the cheekbones, the distance they lie from each other. Think of people on the table, we're either at the head end or at the foot end, or we're looking at the cheekbones in relationship to everything else.
Are we going to cover anything about, for instance, someone has a diamond-shaped head, right? And you want to make it more of a triangular type
Nope.
head? No.
We're not going to cover that.
Okay. Like shade the sides or the top, nothing like that, right?
Would that be
That's
color?
Sounds probably more color and cosmetics.
Just making sure.
Yeah, nothing nothing from my course that I can recall from that.
Okay.
Yeah, but thinking the shading, that's going to help to give you
I,
a shadow.
it was a year ago I went.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
There's a
and, yeah,
lot of
pull out
things-
those color notes too, because
No,
that's
yeah.
part of it, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so with bilateral, whenever you see oval is always most common. That's gentle curvature. If you see angular, that's a narrow frontal plane, the sides appear to be flattened. Round, that's full curving form. The other word that comes to mind whenever I see round in any of these things is that they always connect round with globular. And then square, little curvature across the frontal planes.
I'm really want to do it.
Okay, let me see how we're doing here. I think this might be a good time take a break for a few moments, we'll catch our breath, and, we'll get back in 5 minutes or so.